Welcome to the big show. It is Paul Zeiss. We are here every single day, although tomorrow we will not be here, but we will be back on Friday to talk about all things Pittsburgh sports. I think one of the things that is really kind of amazing to me right now is the way that people are talking about Aaron Rodgers. And to me, when I look at Aaron Rodgers and I say, well, he may be coming, he may not be coming. I think a lot of people are losing their minds about this thing. I think we've got to almost like peak idiocy when we have ESPN today talking about how, he needs to be at OTAs and everything else. It's kind of like, well, first of all, they're voluntary. Second of all, he's not under contract. He's not an actual member of the Steelers. Again, I keep going back to the same thing. The Rooneys seem to be okay with it. Tomlin seems to be okay with it, so I'm okay with it. I know Terry Bradshaw went crazy about it today, too. Bradshaw is always really entertaining, and there's always, it's always fun to listen to him. But at the end of the day, I think he probably went overboard. Now we have a very special guest, and that would be one Mike DeCourcy, who is from the Sporting News. And Mike, are you there?
I am here.
Good. And it's good to hear you. And it's obviously really a pleasure for me to have you on the show. I think it's the first time you've made an appearance on the big show. As I always say, you are absolutely the gold standard and one of the best in the business. And I mean that in all sincerity. I consider you a role model to me, and I think that one of the things that sets you apart from everybody else is that you're able to talk intelligently about just about anything. And I think the ultimate compliment I can pay to you is when I read your stuff, even if I don't agree with you at the start, usually by the end, he's actually got a really good point. So that's good, right? That's a good thing.
That's the goal, to sort of. Honestly, Paul, for me, my role model, even though I've never been a radio talk host and never been a host of a sportscast in the way that Stan Savran was, Stan was mine. Because I looked at him when I was in high school. He was only a little bit older than me, but by the time I got to be a junior, senior in high school, he had his first talk show in Pittsburgh, and obviously Myron was brilliant, but no one could aspire to be Myron. So I looked at Stan as someone who was always honest, always interesting, always well-informed, always logical. And I tried to pattern myself after him, even if it were in different mediums.
Well, I will say this, probably the first guy that really took me under his wing was Bob Smizik and Ron Cook, and then Stan. When I started, moving into some broadcast type of stuff, and Stan was always three things with him. Number one, prep work, second to none. Number two, very much logical, practical, thought out, and not like emotional hot take type stuff like you get nowadays, right? And the other thing is that I learned from him is, you know what? You have to bring an opinion. I mean, like there was no like gray matter with him when it came to, him talking about issues. So Stan really was like a mentor to me, along with Smizik and Cook. I don't know if you heard my opening, but this whole thing with Aaron Rodgers has sort of taken on a life of its own. And, one of the things, like I said about you, Mike, is, even though you're sort of the basketball guy, you really venture off and tackle a lot of issues. And you've written a number of great opinion pieces on the Steelers. You grew up here, obviously. You're back here. You kind of know the history of the Steelers from the standpoint of, the 70s and the 80s and everything else. What is your thoughts on Aaron Rodgers, the story that it's become, the life that it's taken on, and everything else? There are people that are actually criticizing the Rooneys. Terry Bradshaw, I think, said that, it's a joke what they're doing. People are saying that the Rooneys are being played. All this other stuff. I just want to hear what you think.
Yeah, first of all, I'll start off by saying that I think it's a terrible idea. I don't think that he adds anything that's worth the subtraction. I don't think he fits into the Steelers culture that has been an essential part of why they have been as successful as they have for the last 50 years. I think if you had 2010 or 2015 Aaron Rodgers and you were going to make exceptions relative to your culture for him, I could see that. I think in the early days, there were some allowances made for Ben Roethlisberger. And eventually he had to sort of come around when things got really difficult. But I think there were allowances made for Antonio Brown given that he always delivered on the field and not when I say on the field, I mean, don't just mean on Sunday. I mean, he worked really hard in practice and all of that. So they made allowances for him. But I don't see why you would make those allowances for someone like Aaron Rodgers. And I'm not just talking about this protracted signing drama. I'm talking about what you can easily anticipate based on prior actions that he would bring to day-to-day practice, camp, et cetera, and what would surround all of that. So I don't think that what I saw on the field last year is indicative of someone that I would say, okay, we'll put up with this because we get that. No, I mean, that's where I think that they really erred in the offseason. I thought Fields was a worthy short-term experiment if they were willing to build an offense around his skills in the way that the Eagles did around Jalen Hurts. I'm not saying he was as good as Jalen Hurts. I'm not saying he couldn't have been better in the right circumstance. I'm saying they weren't willing to make the accommodations to his skill set, which I think was a mistake. I thought if you were going to go short-term with a veteran, Russell Wilson was fine last year. The narrative around him that developed because he lost to weight. The Eagles who won the Super Bowl, the Chiefs who lost it, the Ravens who nearly made it. Okay, so who else wouldn't lose those games? The Bengals game, I'm putting that squarely on the shoulders of Arthur Smith and the head coach who enabled it. They had, and I went through and counted this, outside of the 2-minute warning and then the attempt at the end to try to come back from down too far. They had 12 first downs, and they ran on 11 of them. They ran on 11 consecutive first downs. You're not beating any team playing like that unless you are having massive success running on first down. Look, if you're running on first down and you're getting 20 yards or 10 or 12, okay, I get it. But they were running for 3 and 2 and 1. I think they had one run that was longer than 4 yards in those 11 first down runs. So you can't hang that on Russell Wilson. So I thought he was fine. And I thought if you brought him back another year while you waited to draft a quarterback, great. Doing this, I don't buy it at all. I don't think he fits. The interesting part about what you said about the continued controversy around this is that personally, I have felt more fatigued as it's gone on. I was initially, when I heard about the initial possibility, really upset about it, angry or disappointed or whatever appropriate adjective. But now I'm just kind of sort of worn out by it. And I guess that some of the daily sports shows on the networks need content. And so it feeds into that and you take a position. Is it logical to take a position that he should be in OTAs? It can be. I don't know that I'd get outraged by it, but if you want to have a great team and you've never played for this team, why wouldn't you be there trying to get as much information and impart as much information as possible? So if he doesn't show up for minicamp and tries to then come in, is that worth it? So I think that when I look at this just seems not like the kind of things the Steelers ordinarily do. And I know that some people sometimes think it's good to get out of a rut or out of a pattern when it's not producing the ultimate success. But I'm not sure that direction is necessarily the direction that you'd want to take when you get out of that pattern.
You mentioned Justin Fields, and one of the things that I said was it made zero sense to me for them to bring Russell Wilson and Justin Fields in and not sign either of them for the second year. I really didn't understand that. I leaned more towards I would like to see them sign Justin Fields because, like you, I thought, well, there's upside. You might as well find out what you have in him. You know, if you build the right offense and you play the right way, he might be able to be successful, and maybe he develops as a passer. Now all of a sudden you got your guy for the next 8 to 10 years or whatever. It just didn't seem very logical to bring in two guys for 1 year essentially. And then not only did you not sign either guy, you really didn't make an attempt to sign either guy. In some ways, I blame the fact that they're in this corner with Aaron Rodgers on them, because I think they had some solutions that they could have like attacked. And the other part of it is, as you notice, we went through it, you know, okay, now this guy's off the board. Okay, now this guy's off the board. Now this guy's all of a sudden, you know what? You're basically looking at Aaron Rodgers or Kirk Cousins or Mason Rudolph. And I just don't know that it had to be here. I don't think they needed to get here, because I think your plan is exactly what I was talking about. Is you brought Justin Fields in for a year. He was what, 4-2 or 5-2, whatever he was when he started.
He was 4-2.
And people were like, "Oh, well, you know, the defense." Well, you know what? They played a certain way so that they could win with their defense.
Right.
You figure this year, maybe moving Broderick Jones over to the left and having Fontenot back at the right, maybe all of a sudden, you know, with Mason McCormick and Zach Frazier a year under their belts, now all of a sudden their offensive line might be something where if you got a quarterback like Justin Fields and a couple of running backs, all of a sudden, you know, you do kind of look like the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, I think that was that part of it is baffling to me. Because the price on neither of the two quarterbacks that you let go was exorbitant. 2 years, I think $20 million for Justin Fields. I don't think that was exorbitant. And then you look at Russell Wilson, and he signed for much less than that. So I thought that both of them gave you a positive option, and that the fact that they chose neither, if, like I said, if there was something out there that was really inviting, then okay. I mean, like Sam Darnold, for instance. I don't believe in Sam Darnold as a big money quarterback. Someone invested in him. I would not have. I would have signed him to a similar deal to a Justin Fields, a sort of a short-term tryout type deal if he were willing, but he didn't have to. He had options. So fine. Okay, go there. But in this case, your two best options were the players who knew your system, that were in your system, and each had something to offer. Russ with the arm that would have been very handy with DK Metcalf coming in. And, of course, Justin Fields with the dynamism that is nearly unmatched among NFL quarterbacks and only exceeded by one. So I don't know why they didn't decide that they wanted to go in that direction. But certainly Fields had been the ideal soldier, so to speak. Never a problem, never complained about getting benched, none of that. Showed up for work every day, so it wasn't anything like that. I was disappointed in the decision to let him go. But at this point, I'd say that they're better off letting Mason Rudolph go out there than they would be by signing Aaron Rodgers.
And I might add, much more popular in the locker room than Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, much more popular in the locker room. And I think, you know, that's one of the things that some people don't think is important, but I do. I feel like, you know, the guys wanted to play for Fields, and they would, you know, they really, they wanted to do that. So I know you're busy, so I don't want to keep you too long, but I do want to ask you one more Steeler question before I can get to some of the college stuff. George Pickens, to me, I was excited when they brought in DK Metcalf. I think he is an upgrade maybe over George Pickens, but then they traded George Pickens. So they're kind of in the same situation they were last year, where they've got one legitimate threat that other teams have to worry about. And I don't know. Last year I termed it in my couple of columns. I said the receiving core is George Pickens and 5 guys named Mo, and I'm not sure that Mo ain't the best one of them all. So I mean, I'm reading all these glowing reports about Roman Wilson. You know, he's the latest camp hero. Calvin Austin for 2 years was the camp hero. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think they upgraded. What's interesting is that all the improvements that they made in team culture by bringing in DK Metcalf to replace George Pickens, they could just exchange if they do bring in Rodgers, which is kind of the odd this direction to go. But I do think that they couldn't go any farther down the road with Pickens. I would have been interested to see if perhaps Metcalf could have straightened him out. But I think that they had seen enough interaction with Pickens and other teammates to believe that even that probably wouldn't make the difference. That having Metcalf as both a model and as potentially an intimidator wasn't enough, and that they felt they were better off moving on with the pick that they can maybe use next year to acquire the quarterback that everybody's been seeking for so long.
Well, exactly. By the way, the game's always on at Archie's. Get down to Archie's on Carson Street, Archie's home of 80-cent wings. Monday through Thursday, it's the home of the Paul's Ice Grilled Cheese Sandwich. So get down to Archie's and enjoy yourself. And when you get there, say hello to Archie for me. Mike, college athletics. I mean, we could probably talk about this for 3 hours. So let's try and make it very brief, or at least streamline it a little bit to a couple of things real quick. I mean, you're a guy that's covered college athletics your entire, career. You are ingrained in it. You are very much and very passionate supporter of the NCAA tournament, all that stuff. When you hear the SEC, for instance, talking about they don't necessarily need the NCAA, when you hear this push to make football independent of all the other sports, I mean, I don't know. I mean, where is all this ending in your mind? And is this going to be a good transition?
Well, I think that, first of all, the idea that the SEC doesn't need the NCAA, fine. Okay, so you can win an SEC championship. You can't win a national championship. Is that good enough for you? Do you want to just be the champion from Kentucky to Texas? I don't know. I don't think that's the ambition. And remember, that's in all sports. If you ditch the NCAA, you're just the SEC. I don't think that's what they want. That's whoever said that, and no one was named in that. Really, my comment on Twitter was, how does that person have a job in college athletics? It's a ridiculous statement. It's as simple as that. That is a ridiculous statement. Now, as far as removing football from the equation, it's already removed. It's never really been part of it. During the period when the NCAA was the rules enforcer, which ended about 5 years ago, and when basically the rule book was shredded, it was part of the NCAA was involved to that extent. At this point, the NCAA and football only intersect with playing rules. That's all. That's the NCAA's only real responsibility in regards to college football. Everything monetarily is either under the conferences or the college football playoff apparatus. That's where all the money is. So NCAA, not even involved. So it doesn't need to be separated. It's already a part. As for the future, I've pointed out, now we haven't yet had the House settlement signed. I think there's a deadline coming up at the end of the week or so, something like that. The House settlement has to be approved by Judge Wilkin in order for everything to fall into place the way it could. But if it's approved, and I haven't seen this from anybody else, but the way the payment is structured, the way the payments are structured to the class, because remember, this doesn't just set up the playing rules relative to revenue sharing and all that. That's a huge part of it, and it's certainly the biggest part of the future. But there's also a massive payment. I believe it's well over $1 billion that has to go to the House class, the athletes that would be covered in the settlement. And that money basically is all coming out of the NCAA tournament allocations. You're getting more money now with the NCAA tournament than you used to, but your raise is getting cut by taxes, so to speak. If you're the NEC or the Horizon League, you used to get X. For the last 10 years, you've gotten X from being a part of the NCAA tournament. Now you're going to get X plus Y, but they're going to take a lot of Y away to go to this settlement. That's the way this payment to this class is structured. The big conferences pay a bunch, but all the conferences are involved. Well, they can't shut down the NCAA tournament and go off and do their own thing, as so many have suggested, if they're telling everybody in the Horizon League and the Missouri Valley and everything else, you got to pony up for this house settlement. You can't and tie it to the NCAA tournament. You can't then take their income away if you're taxing them. So the tournament would have to last for the next 10 years, which gives us a lot of time to figure everything else out. We're going to see programs shut down in various areas, not necessarily because their expenses are going up because of the revenue share, but because the schools involved are looking for a reason to get rid of programs, and this provides the cover. It happened in COVID. I wrote about it at the time. Stanford dropped a lot of sports during COVID because they had a lot and they cost money and they didn't want to deal with it anymore, whatever. And I think a lot of those were recovered because the alumni said no. But Cincinnati, a great example, had men's soccer. Nobody went to the games. They weren't any good at it. So they said, you know what? This is a good reason. This is a good time to get rid of it. So they said, oh, COVID, no more men's soccer. Nobody really misses it, except for the guys who would have played there and who were playing there. That's really the only people that miss it. And we'll see that happen to other programs not because of the settlement, but because this settlement will provide cover for the elimination of those programs.
Bill Self said he'd like to see the NCAA tournament expanded. I know this is a very quick discussion for you. I'm against it. I don't like it. I understand why coaches would want that to happen, but to me, if we start going to 76 teams or whatever they're talking about, I don't know. I think you're starting to bring teams in that probably didn't have the kind of season that they should be in. And here's my thing, Mike. I would almost say, okay, I'll sign off on it, but all of the other 6 teams or whatever, they all have to be mid-majors. That would end that discussion quickly.
Yeah, and plus there's no really way to quantify that. You know, right. You can say, okay, you 4 leagues, you don't get any more, I guess, but that doesn't really make, you can't really enforce that. So I understand your point, but it doesn't need to be expanded in any way. There's not a economic gain for it. It's just programs that want to say we were in, so no reason to fire the coach. But look, if somebody just is going to give me a Pulitzer just because I was able to write 1,000 words coherently, I mean, it doesn't really mean anything then, does it, Paul?
No.
It should be hard to get in. It's hard to get in the NCAAs. It's not impossible. Everybody, in every league, all you have to do is win 3 to 4 games and you can get in. So it's not impossible. It's hard, and it should be hard. And I don't think dumbing it down makes it better. You don't give somebody a degree because they completed. Oh, you did 60 credits. That's good enough. We'll let you slide. No, you got to get your 120 or 130, depending on the university. And that's the way it should be. It should be hard. You should have to put the time in. And in basketball, you should have to win enough quality games to get in.
Last one for you, I swear, and I'll let you go. People here, very, very much angst about Pitt and how it's going to survive. Obviously, there's financial issues at Pitt that, the previous regime, the Victory Heights project where they had, let's have this $275 million building or whatever it is. And, oh, by the way, we've only raised $15 million for it or whatever. There's a sense that maybe Pitt will not be able to compete, or Pitt is going to have to do some real belt tightening. I'm going to allow you to just try and give a message of hope to Pitt fans that Pitt somehow, some way will still be able to do the things they need to do to field competitive teams and all that other stuff.
Well, I think it depends on which sport you're talking about, but they've shown they can be highly competitive in men's and women's soccer, women's volleyball, obviously, wrestling. They've had some great success. It's been a while for men's basketball to be consistently outstanding. They did have the tournament appearance in 23. They just missed in 24, probably just bad luck for them, really. If it had been a regular year without so many bid steals, they probably would have made it in 24. This last year was disappointing. They should have made it. They should have been good enough to make it. But I think the difficulty is that you have to find a way to have roster continuity, and it's not easy to do at a place like Pitt when you develop a Jalen Lowe into a person that a place like Kentucky would want. It's hard to keep him then because look, Jalen Lowe is a really good player, and does he have a great pro future? Well, he's going to make money playing the game for a long time, no doubt about that. Is he going to make a lot of money playing the game for a long time? A lot of money for me, not a lot of money for Tyrese Halliburton. So if someone's going to pay you a lot of money to play a year of college basketball, it's hard to say no. So that's a challenge for Pitt, and I can't say that challenge won't come up time and again. But it could look at it as a good problem to have if Jalen Lowe gets you into the tournament as a sophomore and as a junior. Then maybe it's not as big of a problem. That's what you have to do when you get a guy like that and you have him. You got to take advantage of that when you do. That'll be the part that will be the challenge for them going forward in both football and basketball. Victory Heights, I was very surprised when I learned that they invested so much in that project. That's the kind of thing you do. Hey, we got half of it, and so, okay, now we're going to do it. I was really surprised that they went forward in the way that they did. And I think there's going to be a price to pay for that decision.
Mike, outstanding stuff as always. And it's always great to catch up with you. Hopefully we can do it again down the road, but thank you so much. I know we went a little long, but you know what, when we get rolling and talking about all these topics, it's easy to go long for sure.
I'm happy to do it, Paul. It's a pleasure to join you.
No, absolutely. Mike, thank you so much and enjoy your evening. All right, that's Mike DeCourcy, one of the best that's ever done it. I can tell you that much right now. And he's right about Pitt. I think one of the things about Pitt is they can still be competitive, but they just got to change their model a little bit, I think. A lot of these schools are going to have to change their model. You know, they're not going to be able to compete at the same level that they used to compete at. And what I mean by that is they're going to have snapshots, like he said, where they have enough talent, right? And they, take advantage of it and, you know, go forward from there. Keep as many of their guys as they can. I think they did a really good job in football this year, keeping most of their guys. In basketball, too, you know, it is what it is. You're them. You have a hard time competing. Kentucky's going to give Jalen Lowe $3 million. Pitt can't pay him that. So you get a couple of those guys, you have to hope that when you have them, you win with them. And if you win with them, then you know what? Okay, he took us to 2 NCAA tournaments. Now he's going to go get paid by Kentucky or Duke or whoever. That's sort of the game now. Pitt isn't really a farm team, so to speak, like, say, Robert Morris, but it's not that far from it. You know, and if you look at the guys that they brought, you know, if you look at the guys that they've brought in basketball, they brought in guys that are all sort of projects. I mean, they're talented, they've got potential, but they might not be ready to contribute right away. I mean, basically, what they need is 3 or 4 of these guys that they brought in this year. I'm talking about the basketball team. They need to basically hit it inside straight that, you know, 3 or 4 of them really pan out immediately. And that's not necessarily an easy thing to do. And so to me, I feel like, you know, that's the reality of college athletics right now. But as Mike said, you know, Pitt can still be competitive in so many ways if they continue to be creative in how they are able to keep up with the Joneses, so to speak. I don't think it's as dire as some people. I don't do the doom and gloom stuff. But I do think that they're going to have to really, really be creative. And they're going to have to be what I would call resourceful in order to make all of that happen. Anyway, I have had a great day. I said I will be back on, so I will be back here on Friday, and we'll hopefully have a lot more to talk about. Until then, enjoy your day.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the North Shore Drive podcast. Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.